Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine, a whisper of something sinister brushing past your ear? Tonight, we delve into the unsettling, the unexplainable, the horrifying. We journey to a place where the ordinary transforms into the deeply disturbing. Tonight's tales will transport you to the village where everyone has the same face. 3 stories, each more unsettling than the last, will unravel the mysteries hidden within this strange and isolated place. Prepare yourself, for once you step into this village, you may never escape the unsettling feeling that you're being watched, that you're not alone. The old rickety bus rattled down the dusty road, its headlights cutting through the thick fog that clung to the silent woods. Inside, a lone passenger, a young woman named Sarah, clutched her worn leather bag, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and unease. She had received a cryptic postcard from her estranged grandmother, urging her to visit the village of Hollow Creek. The bus screeched to a halt, the sudden silence amplifying the eerie stillness of the night. Sarah stepped off the bus, her breath catching in her throat as she took in the sight before her. The village was shrouded in an unnatural darkness, the only light emanating from a flickering gas lamp that cast long, distorted shadows across the deserted street. A shiver ran down her spine as she noticed the figures standing at the edge of the pool of light. They were tall and slender, their faces obscured by the darkness. As she took a hesitant step forward, the figures turned, their faces slowly coming into view. Sarah gasped, her blood turning to ice. Every single person had the same face. It was a face devoid of any emotion, a blank canvas of unnaturally perfect features. Their eyes, cold and lifeless, stared right through her, sending a wave of terror crashing over her. Swallowing her fear, Sarah approached the figures, her voice trembling as she asked for directions to her grandmother's house. The figures remained silent, their unblinking gaze fixed on her. The only sound was the gentle rustling of the wind through the trees, a sound that seemed to whisper a warning. One of the figures, a tall, gaunt man with a chillingly familiar face, stepped forward. He pointed a long, bony finger down a narrow cobblestone street, his touch sending a jolt of fear through Sarah's body. She mumbled a thank you, her voice barely a whisper, and hurried down the street, her heart pounding in her chest. The further she walked, the more oppressive the silence became. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen dread that pressed down on her, threatening to suffocate her. She could feel eyes on her, watching her every move, but when she turned, there was no one there. Finally, she reached her grandmother's house, a dilapidated Victorian mansion at the end of the street. The house loomed over her, its dark windows like empty eyes staring back at her. With trembling hands, she reached for the rusted iron gate, a sense of foreboding washing over her. As she pushed open the gate, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, echoing through the empty streets. It was a scream filled with terror, a scream that sent shivers down Sarah's spine and told her that she had entered a place from which she might never escape. The scream echoed in Sarah's ears, a chilling reminder of the darkness that shrouded Hollow Creek. She had found her grandmother's house eerily deserted, the silence broken only by the creaking of the floorboards and the rustling of the wind whistling through the broken window panes. Days turned into nights, each one blurring into the next, a tapestry woven with unsettling encounters and a growing sense of dread. The villagers, with their identical emotionless faces, seemed to observe her every move, their presence a constant unsettling reminder that she was an outsider in their midst. One evening, as Sarah explored the dusty attic of her grandmother's house, she stumbled upon a full-length antique mirror hidden beneath a moth-eaten sheet. Curiosity piqued, she cautiously pulled the sheet away, the mirror's silvered surface reflecting her own startled image back at her. As she gazed at her reflection, a shiver ran down her spine. The face staring back at her was not her own. It was the same face that haunted the villagers, the same vacant eyes, the same unnervingly perfect features. Panic welled up inside her, her breath catching in her throat. She stumbled back, her hand instinctively reaching out to steady herself. But as her fingers brushed against the cold, smooth surface of the mirror, she felt a strange pull, a sensation of being drawn in. The world around her dissolved into a dizzying swirl of colors and shapes. When she opened her eyes, She found herself standing in a dimly lit room, the air thick with the scent of decay and something else, something metallic and cloying. She was surrounded by the villagers, their identical faces illuminated by the flickering light of candles. They stared at her, their expressions unreadable, their silence more terrifying than any scream. Then one of the figures stepped forward, his face inches from hers. His eyes, cold and lifeless, seemed to bore into her very soul. He reached out a hand, his touch sending a jolt of fear through her body. "You are one of us now," he whispered, his voice a raspy, hollow sound. Sarah tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. She thrashed against the invisible bonds that held her captive, her heart pounding against her ribs like a wild animal desperate to break free. As the villager's cold, clammy hand reached for her face, she squeezed her eyes shut, bracing herself for the inevitable. But instead of pain, she felt a strange numbness spreading through her body, a coldness that seeped into her bones, stealing her fear, her will, her very identity. Days turned into weeks, each one a chilling replica of the last. Sarah wandered through the village, a ghost trapped in a town of phantoms. The villagers' words echoed in her ears, "You are one of us now," a haunting mantra that chipped away at the remnants of her former self. The reflection in the mirror no longer filled her with terror. It showed her reality, a chilling truth she couldn't escape. The face of the villagers had become her own. Her once vibrant eyes were now vacant, her smile a distant memory. But deep within the recesses of her mind, a flicker of her old life remained. A spark of defiance ignited, fueled by the memory of who she once was, of a life beyond the suffocating conformity of Hollow Creek. She remembered the bus, her only way in, her potential escape. Each night under the veil of darkness, she would steal away to the edge of the village, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and terror. The road, shrouded in an unnatural fog, seemed to stretch endlessly before her, a tangible representation of the impossible task ahead. The villagers, their presence felt even in the darkness, watched her every move, their silence a deafening reminder of their control. One night, as the moon hung heavy in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows across the deserted road, Sarah saw it. The faint outline of the bus emerged from the fog, its headlights cutting through the darkness like beacons of hope. With newfound determination, she ran towards the bus, her breath catching in her throat, her legs heavy and uncooperative. She could hear the villagers behind her, their footsteps silent but their presence undeniable. As she reached the bus, her hand outstretched, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was the tall, gaunt man who had pointed her towards her grandmother's house, his face a mask of chilling familiarity. "You can't leave," he whispered, his voice a hollow echo in the stillness of the night. "You are one of us now." Sarah's hand froze in midair, her heart sinking in her chest. She looked from the bus to the villager, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The bus, her only escape, seemed to drift further away with each passing second. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the darkness, the bus, along with Sarah's hopes of escape, vanished into the fog. She was left standing on the side of the road, her reflection in the bus window a chilling reminder of her fate. She was trapped, her identity consumed by the village, her face another mask in the crowd. The village of Hollow Creek remains, shrouded in an unsettling silence, a place where individuality fades and conformity reigns. Its inhabitants, with their identical faces, serve as a chilling reminder of the darkness that lies hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of fear, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more terrifying tales. And don't forget to tell me in the comments, do you think Sarah ever truly escaped the village, or is she destined to wander its desolate streets for eternity? The next time you look in the mirror, take a moment to really see yourself. Ask yourself, are you who you think you are, or has something else, something sinister, taken hold?